graduated from high school, and it looks like the judge will not let me go through the graduation of my son, who's worked very, very hard. He's a great student, and he's very proud of the fact that he did so well. And I was looking forward for years to have graduation with his mother and father there. And it looks like the judge isn't going to allow me to escape this scam. It's a scam trial. If you read all of the legal pundits, all of the legal scholars today, there's not one that I see that said this is a case that should be brought or tried. It's a scam. It's a political witch hunt. It continues, and it continues forever. And we're not going to be given a fair trial. It's a very, very sad thing. In addition, as you know, next Thursday, we're before the United States Supreme Court on a very big hearing on immunity. And this is something that we've been waiting for a long time. And the judge, of course, is not going to allow us. He's a very conflicted judge, and he's not going to allow us to go to that. He won't allow me to leave here for a half a day, go to D.C. and go before the United States Supreme Court because he thinks he's superior, I guess, to the Supreme Court. We got a real problem with this judge. We have a real problem with a lot of things having to do with this trial, including the DA. Because you go right outside and people are being mugged and killed all day long, and he's sitting here all day with about 10 or 12 prosecutors over nothing, over what people say shouldn't be a trial. So I just want to thank you very much, but that I can't go to my son's graduation, or that I can't go to the United States Supreme Court, that I'm not in Georgia or Florida or North Carolina campaigning like I should be. It's perfect for the radical left Democrats. That's exactly what they want. This is about election interference. That's all it's about. Thank you very much.
First of all, and I apologize if this is just a tad too direct, but let's remember that right after Barron was born, Donald Trump was out sleeping with Stormy Daniels. So I get that Trump is playing the role of innocent father here to evoke sympathy from his gullible supporters, but if this guy wasn't paying off a porn star for sleeping with her when his son was born, he wouldn't be sitting in a courtroom right now dealing with those hush money payouts on the eve of that kid's high school graduation. So please, spare us the Father of the Year routine. Also on this complaint that Trump can't go to his son's high school graduation, yeah, dude, that's how it works. When you commit crimes and you have to stand trial for them, you sacrifice other things in your life that might also be important. That's perhaps a reason not to commit crimes. But he's not going to curry sympathy from the judge because he has other obligations when he decided to break the law. Maybe next time, Trump should think about what he'll have to sacrifice by virtue of his criminal activity, and that'll perhaps be a reason not to do it. Trump goes on to claim that he's read many legal scholars and none of them say that this case should have been brought. First of all, I'm certain this is true because, as we all know, Donald Trump is very attuned with the legal scholars out there. If there's one person who really fuels himself by digging into the intricacies of legal scholardom, it's the guy who thinks that stolen is spelled with 2 L's. Second of all, he's lying. Legal scholars and pundits alike can very easily see why this case not only should have been brought, but is also a home run for the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Think about it quite simply. Michael Cohen went to prison for a hush money scheme orchestrated by Donald Trump and for Trump's benefit. If the guy who executed the scheme went to prison, why wouldn't the guy responsible for directing the scheme also have legal exposure? He of course does, and he knows that, but because his sole priority is manipulating the rubes who trust him, he keeps spouting off the same lies on a daily basis. Any quote-unquote legal scholar who doesn't recognize the very obvious legal exposure that Trump has, I can assure you, is a hack looking to grift some cash off of gullible conservatives on TV. Trump then goes on to complain that he won't be allowed to leave his criminal trial to go to the Supreme Court arguments where they're litigating the issue of presidential immunity. Again, that's how it works. It doesn't matter if you have a graduation or a job interview or your own wedding. If you are the defendant in a criminal trial, you're going to be present for it for the entirety of that trial. If you wanted a clear schedule to run your errands and make your appointments, again, and this may sound obvious, perhaps don't commit crimes. By the way, Trump has no need to go to the Supreme Court to watch them litigate this issue of presidential immunity. He already got what he needs from them, which is delay, but let's be absolutely clear here. This is a sham undertaking by right-wing hacks on that court. A president does not have immunity to commit criminal offenses while in office. A trial court ruled that way, an appeals court ruled that way, and even this extreme Supreme Court will rule that way, but not after they've handed him a wholly and completely unnecessary delay, which held off his DC prosecution. They knew that the issue might be a bust, but they still could give him the gift of more time, and so that's what they did. But this question will go nowhere, so Trump's efforts to pretend like this is a serious undertaking is a joke, and him pretending that he needs to be present for it is an even bigger joke. He is exactly where he belongs, which is in a defendant chair in the courtroom in New York. And then, of course, Trump whines that he isn't out campaigning in Georgia or Florida or North Carolina. You already know what I'm going to say. If you want a clear schedule, don't commit crimes. It is not the judge's problem if you can't do things that someone who is not a criminal defendant can do. If you want full freedom to live your life, then don't commit felonies and you'll have no problem. But Trump, who I should remind you is a grown-ass man, made the conscious decision to break the law, and now comes the part where he's held accountable for it, which shouldn't be a foreign concept for the leader of a political party that brands itself the Law and Order Party. And yet, here we are. And finally, because of course, Donald Trump accuses the judge of committing election interference. The fact that Trump is a political candidate is not license for him to commit crimes with impunity. Trump would be on trial regardless of whether he was a political candidate or not. So no, Trump doesn't get to claim that any effort to hold any politician accountable is akin to election interference. It is just the judicial system working exactly as it should with someone who happens to be a political candidate, just as it would with a doctor on trial or a retail worker on trial or an unemployed person on trial. No one is above the law in this country, and that even applies to a self-perceived God King, Donald Trump himself. And look, I could keep picking apart every word of Trump's response, but at its core, this is a textbook statement from Trump. A bunch of nonsense and lies, all couched in pathetic victimhood. And that's the ultimate irony here. That Donald Trump, who committed not one, not two, not three, but 34 felonies, is presenting himself as the victim. Let's be clear, no one forced Donald Trump to break the law. He's a big boy. He makes his own decisions. The law prohibiting campaign finance violations has been around for a long time. And Donald Trump knew that law well, which is why he funneled the money through Michael Cohen, meaning this was all predictable. When you break the law, you should be prepared to answer for it. That's not Judge Merchan's fault, it's not Joe Biden's fault, it's not the Democrats' fault, it is his fault. And instead of bitching and moaning because he isn't above the law, he might consider actually taking some responsibility for his own actions. And finally, if he's that desperate to be a good father, maybe more important than going to a graduation that, let's face it, he was never planning on attending anyway, he should set a better example for his son than paying off porn stars and committing felonies and trying to overturn elections and engaging in criminal conspiracies. Just, you know, for starters. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to the channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way, and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.